Sorry guys, I forgot to identify one of the structures in the heart. The sinus venosus is right here. So it sits beneath the atrium, which is located up here. So this is the atrium, this is the sinus venosus. Sinus venosus, okay? So if you look at this red line stretching down here, this is the lateral abdominal artery. Lateral abdominal artery. So it stretches all the way down. It's bare in other charts, but our one here would be right there. Okay. So if we go into the other chart, because it's identified a lot better, we're going to go into the next set of arteries. Okay. So you see the celiac artery here stretching. It diverges into separate arteries. So right here, we have got the hepatic artery. The hepatic artery kind of like does its own thing. Rather than going down, it's kind of going up. And it would lead into the liver, which is located here. So if you think of hepatic is associated with the liver. This artery is leading into the liver. So it's going whoop, into the liver. Okay. So the next one is the gastric artery. The gastric artery itself is linked to the stomach, which is here. So this right here is the gastric artery. The one beside it, one also going down here, is the gastrohepatic artery. So this is the gastric hepatic artery. And if you look down, it's leading into the intestine, but it's not called the gastrohepatic artery once it leads down to the intestine. So this top region here, gastric hepatic artery, once it goes down here, it will then be called the pancreatic mesenteric artery. Is that right? Yeah. So the pancreatic mesenteric artery, which is right there. Okay. The anterior intestinal artery will sit up top. Anterior, if you think of anterior is top, so it'd be here. It stretches all the way down the intestine, so it'd be located here. It's the anterior intestinal artery. If you flip the intestine over and you see this artery here, it's at the bottom, and it would be called the posterior artery. So the posterior artery stretches all the way down here, but it extends out. That's the difference between the anterior and posterior. There's no extension on the anterior, it just goes all the way down here. The posterior comes here and kind of goes out. So this is the posterior mesenteric artery. Okay. The intra-intestinal arteries will be inside the intestine itself. So it's going to be intra, which is in the intestine. So it'll be these lines here. So if you ever see a probe pointing inwards, that is the intra-intestinal artery. Okay. So the anterior mesenteric artery will be located here. Sorry, they're all like tangled. Okay, so the anterior mesenteric artery is located here. It is actually part of the extension that comes off from the posterior intestinal artery, so it's here, right there. It's the second of the two, and it links to the intestine. So this is the anterior mesenteric artery. This one here, interestingly enough, is sort of similar, but this artery leads to the spleen. Okay, so if you see its journey, it starts from here, goes all the way into the spleen. So therefore, this one here would be called the gastrosplenic artery. So it's located here, leads towards the spleen, therefore gastrosplenic artery. The posterior mesenteric artery is this artery here. It leads to the rectal gland. So just to differentiate between the anterior comes off the intestine, posterior goes towards the rectal gland. Okay, the caudal artery will be this pink thing here. If you think of tail, which is the same as caudal, you would look towards the tail, and it's this pink something here. So that is the caudal artery.